Hello, everybody. Welcome to this webinar. We will start in a couple of minutes while everybody is entering this meeting. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome to this webinar, Youth for Our Common Future. It's gonna be a very busy and inspiring event. We have more than 200 participants registered for this event, so it's really nice. And please feel free to mention where you are from in the chat. There's a poll, but also from which organization you are and maybe your affinity with wetlands. And yeah, we are co-organizing this day with 6 other organizations who will present themselves shortly. But as I see many more people coming in, we will wait for just 2 more minutes, okay? All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this webinar. Yesterday was World Wetlands Day, and that's also why we organized today this webinar, Youth for Our Common Future. The day is normally celebrated to raise global awareness about the critical role of wetlands. My name is Nalini Mahesh, and I work for Wetlands International, but I am here with my co-organizers from the International Association of Students in Agricultural and Related Sciences, IAAS. We are here with International Forestry Students Association, IFSA, with the Youth Engaged in Wetlands, U, with RE-PEAT, and with the Global Peatlands Initiative from UNEP and Wetlands International themselves. And let's just directly dive into it. We have a tight schedule, only 1 hour. So please, can I give the floor to Alpren Usturk, the president of IAAS. Please take the floor and introduce yourself.
Oh, thank you so much. And also great pronunciation, by the way. I'm impressed. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I hope you are enjoying the World's Wetlands Day. Today is a very remarkable, important day for wetlands and mentioning the importance of this day. And you know, like how important wetlands are for us in our agriculture, for supporting local communities in the global south, and also protecting and preserving our biodiversity as well. So we cannot talk enough about the importance of the wetlands, but I can tell a little bit about what we are doing as IAAS World for the preserving or restoring the wetlands especially in global south. So since we are working with the global students and the biggest students organization for agriculture and related sciences, we have a team of scientists who works on wetlands in different countries in Southeast Asia, and we give them all the trainings and support they need to go and advocate and train some farmers or people who are directly in touch with the wetland areas. And then we also have different programs where we have the wetland and delta project, delta areas restoration projects. And through these projects, we give to youth all the support. It could be like financial, like mentorship, or like we screen and monitor their progress. And whenever we have more opportunities, we give them more opportunities to work for betterment of the wetland areas. And in IAAS, we call it Delta Project. And of course, it's most about Delta wetlands. And this project was initiated by a few visionary people in IAAS in the past. And we are so happy to be here. I don't want to talk about it a lot, so the rest of the people can have something to say. And yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity. We are so happy to be part of this.
Thank you so much, Oprah. I'm very happy you can join us in this conversation. For the people that are just coming in, we are doing the introductions. This event will highlight inspiring youth-led initiatives, and that's also why we have in the room IFSA, which is our International Forestry Students Association. Please, Riska, Afif, introduce yourself a little bit and the organization.
Am I audible?
Definitely, we hear you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Happy to be here as youth and see our distinct speakers, young generation, ladies and gentlemen.
Riska, I cannot hear you.
Hello,
One
am I
moment.
audible?
Yeah, we hear you now. Could you please start over?
Probably you are able to pass to another person, then I would be the last one. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. All right, we're gonna fix some technical difficulties, but then we go to you. We go to Tandeka Nedela. You is our Youth Engaged in Wetlands organization. Please take the floor, Nadella.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I hope you can all hear me. My name is Tandega Ndlela, and I'm here representing Youth Engaged in Wetlands as the Associate Coordinator. Thank you kindly for inviting us to celebrate with all of you today, World Wetlands Day 2025, under the theme Youth for Our Common Future. So, Youth Engaged in Wetlands, or YEW, or U, is a volunteer youth network. It currently consists of about 16 people. All of us are scattered all around the world and extremely committed to conserving, protecting, and ensuring the wise use of wetlands globally. Just a little history. YEW was created. Okay, thank you. Just a little history about us. We were created and we have continued to grow, obviously in harmony with the mission of the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands. At COP13, which was held in Dubai in 2018, we held an official COP13 Youth Side event, which showcased all the inspiring successes, stories, and challenges faced by youth in wetland conservation. We also organized a visioning workshop meant to define the vision of YEW, and we also delivered a youth statement for the closing plenary of the conference with the support of the World Wetland Network. That was 7 years ago in 2018. And over the years, we've participated and spearheaded a number of activities. Firstly, we've been very intentional about building this youth network that keeps growing every day. One of our biggest objectives was to draft a resolution to increase the meaningful involvement of youth in the Ramsar Convention. With the support of the governments from Australia and Costa Rica, we brought the first youth resolution to the COP14 in Switzerland in 2022. We've also been supporting its implementation in the last 2.5 years, including the Youth Work Plan, and I'm happy to share that the second youth resolution has been finalized under the guidance of the Youth Working Group Chair, who is also a YEW member. We've also worked intensely on establishing and strengthening partnerships with Ramsar stakeholders like Wetlands International and RE-PEAT quite recently. We've also organized youth flower forums, educational events, and webinars. And we've also published reports and articles in academic journals. All of these examples I'm highlighting serve to illustrate that wetland conservation initiatives of the Ramsar Convention will continue to benefit greatly from meaningful engagement of us, and by us I mean young people, because we continue to inject fresh, new, and constructive ideas. Now, we'd like to ask all of you here who are present today to continue advocating and supporting the youth as a key stakeholder for the implementation of the Ramsar Strategic Plan, to encourage contracting parties to appoint national youth focal points, and to champion the participation of youth in the development and implementation and monitoring of on-ground wetland conservation programs at national, international, government level, NGOs, and in the private sector. Please feel free to drop us an email or connect with us on social media if you'd like to support a young person to attend COP15 in Zimbabwe, which is happening in July of this year. We've just launched our fundraising campaign via our LinkedIn page. I'll share the link in the chat. And yeah, on behalf of Youth Engaged in Wetlands, thank you for giving us this platform. Thank you, Nalini.
Thank you so much, Thandeka, for this beautiful introduction and call to action. I hope everybody heard this, and please drop the link in the chat. And you also made a nice bridge to our next co-organizer from RE-PEAT. I would like to give the floor to Irene van Dolderen. Please take the floor.
Hi, thank you so much, and thank you for having me here as a RE-PEAT representative. Yeah, it's very nice to have this cross-youth group conversation today. I think as youth groups, it makes so much sense for us to come together and have conversations, because we can really be the ambitious, visionary, and challenging voice to complex issues of our time. And just like just like wetlands around the world, we are all doing our own thing, yet undeniably in relation to one another. So then a little bit about RE-PEAT. We are a youth-led collective based online, actually. We have our center point in the Netherlands, but we're dotted around most of Europe. We're between 15 and 20 people. And we are all very much in love with peatlands specifically, so a certain type of wetlands. And most of our work focuses on narrative shifting. So we have a range of projects, all quite diverse and transdisciplinary in nature, to invite people to deepen their relationship to peatlands and to push for peatland protection globally. So for instance, we have organized Peat Fest that have more of a local focus. We have collaborated with local communities to have their own peat gatherings. We are running an education program in Ireland to have young kids interact with peatlands on various levels. We are campaigning against the horticultural industry in the Netherlands at the moment, more on that later. And we run a range of workshops and events throughout the year. So thanks so much for having us here, and yeah, back to you.
Thank you so much, and would love to hear more about it in your next presentation. But before we go there, I would like to also give the floor to the Global Peatlands Initiative from UNEP, Patrick Shiel. Please introduce yourself and your affiliation with the topic today.
Thank you. Thank you, Nalini. So it's great to be here. Thank you for the invitation and for the introduction. So yeah, it's a great pleasure to be here, representing the Global Peatlands Initiative and celebrating this important World Wetlands Day together with all of you and with all of these inspiring youth organizations and the youth community. And yeah, so today is about you. Today is about uniting your youth voices, creating synergies, and strengthening our collective commitment towards the protection of wetlands and peatlands for our common future. So yes, as you may know, peatlands are a critical type of wetland. And while we actually have our own World Peatlands Day celebrated in June, we're sneaking here into the World Wetlands Date with you because we want to celebrate this together and to join efforts and be able to raise awareness together. So, I mean, I hope we all know that peatlands are champions, and not only for climate change mitigation, but also for biodiversity and livelihoods. So although they just cover 3% of the total Earth's surface, peatlands have a profound impact on our planet. And these are ancient ecosystems that store more carbon than all of the world's forests combined. And they also play a vital role in regulating and purifying water for human consumption, for wildlife. They provide habitats for rare and threatened species, and overall they sustain local livelihoods, just like wetlands, for millions of people worldwide. So we have all of the science and the data and the research to back up why peatlands matter for the climate, for the people, for nature. And although peatlands are everywhere, so we've done some recent assessments, and we have found peatlands in 177 out of the 193 UN member states. So peatlands are everywhere, but the problem is that the fact that they are still under-recognized, underrepresented, and vulnerable, despite their immense value. So that's why these type of gatherings are very, very, very important. And we want to remind you all of the importance of wetlands, of both wetlands and peatlands, and how their protection can be boosted by the youth voices. So as we work towards our common future, we need youth change makers just like you that can integrate wetland and peatland conservation into their careers, into their communities, into their passions, and see how this can find a way into the sort of common knowledge of the general public. So we as the Global Peatlands Initiative, we're here to support our youth partners to amplify their voices and to listen to new perspectives. And whether you're part of a youth-led organization or just the young voice of an organization related to wetlands or a student that is passionate about this topic, we want to hear from you and support you to become a youth wetland champion. And we want organizations to understand the deep connection between youth and wetlands and the urgency for the conservation, restoration, and sustainable management of wetlands and peatlands. So yeah, we're very excited to hear more about the Peatland Justice Campaign, the Wetlands for Nepal project, and all of these other inspiring initiatives from all of you. And yeah, as I said, we want to find synergies and strengthen global efforts to amplify wetlands and peatlands on the international environmental agenda. So yeah, our main goal is to work together to ensure that all of these ecosystems are valued for the generations to come. And I'm going to share some more details about us as the Global Peatlands Initiative at the end of this session. But in the meantime, thank you, Nalini, and yeah, let's start this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patrick. I really liked also the diversity that you sketched of involvement, how different youth voices, if you are engaged with it or if you're youth yourself, that there are different ways to get involved. Thank you. Before we go into the first presentation, I would also like to give the floor to Han de Groot from Wetlands International. Please, Han, take the floor.
Thank you, Nalini, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. Wetlands International is very happy that to see youth involvement growing around wetlands. Following, amongst others, the Ramsar resolution of a few years ago. And also for us, for Wetlands International, growing youth involvement is super important. So for this purpose, we issued a survey not so long ago to take stock of some initiatives, because sometimes we don't even know ourselves what's happening. So we found nice initiatives in our network, like Wetlands Ambassadors, for instance, in Panama, educational programs in West Africa, a learning center for youth in India. And yeah, we see this sort of initiatives growing in our network. As you know, Wetlands International is represented in around 20 countries worldwide, but also beyond. But the importance of wetlands themselves is also growing. And it is, we need to realize that growing importance is not always followed by policymakers and business. So, we also need to look for new partnerships and new ways of working. And we are happy to see that these youth-led initiatives are taking up the issue. That's really very encouraging. So we need to do more, engage in new partnerships, increase our efforts and involve youth. But maybe it's not only more, it's also about different. So I'm asking myself, and I'm asking also you here for this webinar, do we speak the right language? Can we do this in a different way to engage more people, policymakers, businesses, and communities to take up a number of important issues related to wetlands? And can youth leaders help? So I'm very much happy to see this happening. I'm very much looking forward to the next hour. Thank you for joining us. And please also give us feedback on how we, as Wetlands International, can do a better job. Thank you.
Thank you, Han. I think we are, before we continue, I would like to give the floor back to Riska. Are you back with us? I saw you leaving the space.
Yeah, sure. Am I audible right now and my video is on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Amazing. My apologies for the inconvenience. I'd like to deliver it shortly. Hello, everyone. Happy to be here as youth and see our distinct speakers, young generations, ladies and gentlemen, virtually. Aris Kafi, I'm the external counselor of the International Forestry Student Associations, or IFSA. Basically, IFSA is one of the largest youth-led organizations focusing on forestry, connecting, educating, and empowering the next generation of leaders for achieving the first global society dream, which is the resilient forest. With over 140 members associations, also known as the local committees or LC, spread over 60 countries, IFSA brings together thousands of students to learn about forests, cultures, and the environment, not limited to blue ecosystem and the oceans, especially wetlands. The social, environmental, and economic principles at the heart of the sustainability are ideals that resonate deeply with all members of IFSA. By fostering a shared commitment to forests and their diverse benefits, IFSA has built a community that welcomes all people and societies, creating a global network of shared interests. I'm personally having the experience on mangrove and planting monitoring under the Forest and Other Land Use Natsing 2030 in Indonesia, and specifically in the Thousand Island National Park, Jakarta. Our initiative, like a local committee Copenhagen Mushroom Hunt Program and excursion during the International Forestry Student Symposium in Germany, which introduced participants to sustainable hunting, are inspiring examples. Additionally, our member, namely Philip Holmes from Germany as well, he has research on maple syrup, a valuable non-timber forest product, highlighting its nutritional significance in the US and Canada. Together, these efforts aim to foster a deeper appreciation for the forest bounty and promote its sustainability use. It is our shared understanding that integrated land management and also peatlands is pivotal for achieving sustainable management in the landscape. In this light, forests hold a vital position within forestry system, significantly mitigating the adverse effect of farming and easing the anthropogenic pressure on our ecosystem. For an ecological perspective, trees are essential in integrative land management as they help maintain soil fertility, as they probably works in the peatland as well. They protect against erosion, regulate water flow, and enrich the soil with organic matter through the natural decomposition of leaf litter and other plant materials, thus enhancing nutrient cycling. Economically, forests offer a reliable source of long-term income by promoting biodiversity, which in turn makes crop more resilient to pests and disease. Furthermore, they provide diverse income opportunities from seasonal crops, effectively reducing the risk of harvest failure. Research conducted by one of our members in Indonesia, namely IFSA Local Committee Universitas Gadjah Mada, illustrates that since the introduction of multi-purpose tree species MPT as agroforestry in path regions Indonesia, farmers have seen an increase in their earnings to approximately 411 dollars per month. In recognition of the vital role forests play in peatlands, blue ecosystem, and ocean, we are expanding awareness through advocacy and education, especially same with COP30 within this year and other conferences. All in all, we envision youth, particularly IFSA, IAAS, and other youth-led organizations, and at the heart to be at the forefront of forestry youth development and also for the ocean as well as peatland management, openly emphasizing the roles of forests in the peatland management and also the ocean management, transforming and adaptation, and representing youth voices at the Global Youth Forum. We are ready to work collaboratively and conduct collective action with you all. No one is left behind. Green regards and thank you.
Thank you so much, Riska. I just mentioned as well in the chat, if you have any questions for these organizations, please drop them in the Q&A so we can kind of keep an overview. And there will also be a short moment to answer those questions after some presentations. So I would now like to give the floor again to Irene on the Peatland Justice Campaign from RE-PEAT. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. Are you able to see anything yet? No, but
Okay.
How about now?
Maybe some delay. Let's see. Yes.
Yeah, great. Okay, wonderful. So yeah, I'll be talking about the Peatland Justice Campaign, which is a fairly recent project set up by RE-PEAT. And this is us, or at least a lot of us. This was last year in autumn during our Peat Fest in London. Just to give you a bit of a glimpse of who's actually behind the scenes at RE-PEAT. And we are, as I said, an international group that is doing all sorts of work around peatland. And Peatland Justice is a project that brings together a lot of past RE-PEAT work where we really saw the need for bringing together social justice and peatlands issues, where we sense that it wasn't making sense to explore peatlands purely from a technical or a scientific angle, but that peatlands were also spaces where social issues coincided with environmental issues, giving an opportunity for us as well to explore solutions and visions where both environment, climate, and people were all meeting justice in the end. In the current, let's say, phase of peatland justice, we are primarily exploring trade and finance of peatlands, because peatland justice is, I guess, a lifelong project, and we felt like we have to start somewhere. So I'll tell you a bit more about the details in a minute, but I would first like to bring some attention to the why. Because peatlands, like these very swampy type of wetlands, they are often destroyed through soil mining. And this soil mining destroys the ecosystem, which has consequences for biodiversity, for local communities, but also huge climate impact, as Patrick already referred to during his introduction. And this soil mining is for primarily potting soil, even though there are all sorts of regenerative alternatives available. So to understand how all of this is allowed to happen, can happen, has happened, it's important to kind of first understand what we're actually dealing with, like what is this soil that people are mining for. And this, what you can see here, is peat soil, well, dried out peat soil. It's a cut through of it. And it's very textured, as you can see. It's wet when it's healthy. And it forms very, very slowly. It forms over thousands of years, in fact, making it fossil, if you will. And it pickles all of the dead plants that fall into its matter. And peat forms so slowly that if you were to stick your hand into the soil 15 centimeters deep, you would reach back 150 years in time. So I think interacting with peatlands in general just is quite mind-blowing on a time scale type of way. And so this soil, this ancient precious soil, is very easily just taken away and dug up. And if you can imagine that peat forms so slowly, you know, these plants build up so slowly, that over thousands of years adds up to a huge amount of carbon. So much that almost half of the soil carbon that exists on this planet is stored in peat soil. And then on top of this soil grows a beautiful, rich ecosystem called a peat. And it's very mossy. Someone is talking. Can you maybe mute yourself? So it's mossy, it's colorful, and it's a hub for biodiversity. And they're beautifully unpredictable, mysterious, and very, very curious. And they're very rare. They do exist all around the world, but they are very rare in terms of surface. They only cover 3% of the world's land surface. And that amount stores then half of the soil carbon. So like the potential of these landscapes is pretty enormous. And if you keep them like that, so beautiful and intact and wet, they are carbon treasure chests. But if you destruct them, if you disturb them, they will release their carbon masses into the atmosphere. So I've already touched upon the carbon holding capacities of peatlands, but protecting peatlands has all sorts of contributions to this world, all sorts of wonders. It's really the only sensible thing to do because they are a natural freshwater filter system, they're a climate disaster buffer zone, they are an ancient archive of the natural world, they're a site for cultural heritage, a hotspot for biodiversity, and they're really fun, actually. And because it's a fossil, the destruction is in essence irreversible. So over the last centuries, peatlands have had a pretty rough time, often destroyed for economic benefits. But with our current understanding of the climate crisis, it's pretty clear that we have to protect our peatlands. And these peatlands are, in fact, still being destroyed and dug up to actually grow more plants, which is incredibly ironic, in my opinion. But first, to kind of just really like bring home this sense of scale, peatlands, they only cover 3% of the world's land cover. Of that 3%, about 15% is degraded, and that 5%, 15% equals 5% of the global CO2 emission, which is basically double the aviation and shipping industry. So those numbers are pretty insane and giving us lots of reasons to act for peatlands. Sorry, the clicking is a bit annoying, as you can see. So that made us wonder, well, why are people still so obsessed with mining peat? What's all of that about? Yeah, these days it's mostly used as a growing substrate. In the past, it was also for fuel, but these days it's mostly for growing. And it's used for growing things like potted plants, flowers, little mosses for on top of your bus stops, but also tomatoes, mushrooms, and they're just sold in potting soil bag. And in Europe, peat is mostly coming from the Baltic regions and then imported oftentimes by the Netherlands, making the Netherlands a really central hub for horticulture worldwide. And when I say mined, like it's really like these peatlands are first drained of their water, then the top layer is scraped off, and then they go and dig the soil, leaving these ecosystems barren and emitting carbon for years to come. And to really amplify like the role, the responsibility of the Netherlands, or not amplify, how to say, underline, 10% of the global peat is imported by the Netherlands. And the Netherlands exports 10% of the global horticultural products, and that's produces. So that's both for international and national use. So the Netherlands, even though a very small country, has a huge role to play in this whole system, making it also a key player that needs to be held accountable. And to make things even crazier, 70% of the peat imported by the Netherlands is then used for non-essential purposes, such as hobby gardening, decorative plants, and flowers. So the question that we get pretty often is, can you grow plants without peat? And the answer is, yeah, for sure. Gardeners in all sorts of places have shown that it's possible. Historically, we've shown that it's possible. So this reliance on peat is, in fact, a false reliance. And there's all sorts of substrates that are being developed at the moment that they're getting increasingly of high quality, such as green compost, sphagnum moss, and bark. But it's not just about going peat-free, it's also about how you go peat-free. Because we need to make sure that moving away from peat happens in such a way that ensures justice rather than offsetting the problem elsewhere. There are some popular alternatives such as cocoa coir that have a lot of ethical and environmental drawbacks, and we want to be very careful to not replace one destructive system with another. Rather, let's move towards system change that has justice for all. So then it kind of brings about this question of what is just peat-free soil then? And that really depends on where you live, what's available, what method of production is being used, etc. You can't just kind of like copy paste that. But we have set up these principles of regenerative peat-free soil, and you can kind of choose your peat-free substrate based on that. And that is that it's ecological, it's effective, and it's fair. And these principles can guide decision making. So to kind of like sum up, going peat-free or regeneratively peat-free is a win on all sorts of levels: for biodiversity, for climate, for communities around peatlands, for local economy.
I'm not, Irene, I think we lost you for a second.
Can you still hear me?
Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I did stop talking because I already expected that.
Okay, yeah, but we did, I think you mentioned win for local economies, and I think you were just mentioning the last conclusion.
Right, so yeah, a win for a resilient horticultural sector. And this last one is a bit more complex to understand, but by leaving the peat in the ground, you're contributing to, well, less global heating, so less intense climate chaos. And horticultural sector is also dependent on a stable climate to have good products. So by going peat-free, you're actually contributing to the resilience of this horticultural sector. So with our campaign, Peatland Justice, we envision a just transition towards a peat-free horticultural sector. And to achieve this, we aim to empower the public to push retailers in the Netherlands specifically to phase out and ban bags and pots of peat from their stores and to replace them with regenerative alternatives. And we are specifically targeting, oh no, now I'm lagging again.
No, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yeah? Okay, good. I'll just keep talking. I'll find out when it doesn't work out. So we're specifically targeting retailers such as Albert Heijn, which is the largest supermarket chain in the Netherlands, and the consumer-facing link in the supply chain. And through pressuring them, we hope to push the whole horticultural system to transform. So we've kind of picked them as a leverage point, if you will. And this bringing about a peat-free transition is really no easy work, especially because many people haven't even heard of the word of peat or peatland. So alongside with pushing the industry to change, we also see the need to educate about the topic and to create opportunities for people to start relating to peatlands differently in a more appreciating and curious way. So that's why within our campaign, we have this target, but we also work on different levels to approach well, to kind of like do all the work at the same time and together make for a big push. So that is collaborative research, for example, with local communities, scientists, other peatland NGOs. Wetlands International is, for example, a partner on this project. We do campaign outreach through, for example, comics, Instagram posts, videos, posters, stickers, talks, etc. We build community capacity to put pressures on retailers to stop stocking peat products in their stores. And we co-create frameworks to support this transition for those most at stake. And I would like to give you an impression of what this looks like in practice. So we started this project about a year ago, and we've done some cool things already. For example, we've hosted a few workshops. Here was a workshop in Berlin where people could explore the intersection of creatures and peatlands. We have conducted focus groups and stakeholder interviews to get a better sense of what is really going on with the trade and finance of peatlands in Europe. We have created a comic, What Even is a Peatland Anyway, which is an accessible introduction to peatlands. We have collaborated with Kingston University in London for campaign posters. Soon in April, we will do a 2-week residency at the Peatland Library to do research for our Deep Map exhibition, which will happen in autumn of this year, bringing together a plurality of stories and art forms to show what's happening with trade and finance of peatlands, not only in a technical sense, but really on a relational sense as well.
Thank you so much, Irene. I have to mention that for the
time.
sake a little bit, but I would love to hear more.
Right.
But maybe you
slide,
can.
is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
Right. So this is how you can help us, but more on that on our website. So you can sign up for updates via this link. You'll get our newsletter and you get all of the campaign updates. And you can follow us on the socials here as well.
Amazing. Thank you. I see there are some questions. What I want to do first is to go to the next presentation, but share your question in the Q&A so we can have an overview of them. But let's first continue to the next presentation, which is Wetlands for Nepal. It will be presented by Anu Rai. Is it okay if I share the presentation, or is your internet? Yeah, that's good. Then I will start sharing my screen.
Namaste everyone, I'm Anu Rai from Nepal, and my presentation will be shortly shared.
Spotlight you as well. One moment. There we go.
So,
can I?
Yeah, I think zooming it would be best. There's this option of zoom.
Yes.
So while this is being done, this wetland Nagda is one of the area that we've been actively working on. And in this picture, you can see wetlands and farmers, which the connection for which I will explain briefly. Next slide, please. So before I dive into our initiatives, I would like to give a brief introduction of wetlands that we have in Nepal. So 5% of the total land area of Nepal is covered by wetlands. And we have 10 wetlands of international importance, which are the Ramsar sites. The pictures that you see here are submissions from one of our campaign where people from all over Nepal and even people who had been to Nepal and took some picture of wetlands, they shared their photos for the competition. So these are our wetlands in different settings. through different ecological zones. And our wetlands, the wetlands in Nepal, we have a mix of animistic worship, Vedic reverence, and Buddhist harmony. So these are not just sites for ecological importance. We have much more religious, cultural, and spiritual values of these wetlands. And Nepalese culture is very rich in its oral storytelling. So many of these wetlands have these storytellings in oral tradition. So in one of our competition, we also made sure to document many of the wetland stories. Next slide, please. So even though wetlands are very important, the wetlands that we see here in Nepal are in a degraded state owing to sedimentation, pollution, spread of invasive species such as water hyacinth and water lettuce. And there's also rapid concretization of the urban wetlands. And we see a lack of integrative vision for wetlands, and especially whenever there is budget, whenever there is any kind of funding related to wetlands, it's mostly trying to artificially beautify it. So the destructive intervention, like concretizing its riparian zone. So these kind of things are taking hold in Nepal, and there's a distinct lack of youth engagement in restoration and conservation of wetlands in Nepal. So next slide, please. So as to our work through Wetlands for Nepal, and through SENSE, we've been working in 7 different areas, which are quite connected. So there we have sediment retention, pond construction for controlling sedimentation, and nutrition unloading into a wetland area. We also tried for invasive plant management and also wetland awareness, the pictures that are shown. And we also had we are continuing with the different competition on trying to raise awareness and also to make people active in knowing and learning more about wetlands. And we have promoted regenerative agriculture because we are promoting it because a lot of the nutritional pollution or the sediment pollution that we see in our wetlands is due to agriculture, due to agricultural practice of the farming community nearby. So that is why we have opted for promotion of regenerative agriculture practices and also promotion of regenerative tourism. And research in aquatic systems are very important to us. So we as a team are working in research in different wetlands of Nepal, and our newest initiative is in mitigation of urban floods with rain gardens, which we will be implementing this year. Next slide, please. So going through all these initiatives might take a lot more time. So I've only taken on a few initiatives that I'd like to shed light on. So one of these is the management of invasive plant species, which is the water lettuce that we found in Nagda, one of the wetlands that we work on. So in that small urban wetland, we saw a lot more destruction caused by these tiny plants. So a lot of manual cleanups were conducted, but our efforts were in vain in relation to the destruction that an invasive plant could do. So our solution as a group was that let's make a product so that the people could continuously harvest the invasive plant and at least try clean the wetland every now and then. So so it consists of water lettuce extraction, processing, and we prototyped this biopesticide and tested its effectiveness. So we found that the biopesticide that we were pitching for was effective, and it uses 5 active ingredients: water lettuce, terrestrial invasive plant, if we can find it, cow urine, jivatu, which is a beneficial microbe, and water. So this initiative was also supported through IAAS, through their youth food lab program. So we are very grateful for that. Next slide, please. not this, a little bit back, previous slide. So, the initiative that I showed you before, the biopesticide production, it was an effort that was that came through our team's effort. So we identified a problem and found a solution that we thought was best. But in a practical setting, we found our solution, a solution that we pitched to be lacking because there was no co-creation involved. So that was a solution pitched by outsider, that is us. So we found that the solution would not be sustainable if we did not have community on board. So the solution was already in practice. So we thought, how do we make amends to this situation where we did not consult the community before implementing the solution? So our solution to this was utilizing a tool called appreciative participated planning and action. So this is basically appreciative inquiry, and it follows 5 Ds that you see: discovery, dream, direction, design, and delivery. So in all these 5 steps, we do it with the community itself. The communities are engaged with us in co-discovering the area. And it's not about identifying problem, it's about identifying assets. What is the community proud of? What do they feel? How what is there that is already working in the community? And then we dream together. So in a 5-year span, how do you want to see your area? So in that phase, going through these phases, the community, in our actual practice, we found that the community started feeling that to achieve this dream, we need to have certain things in place. So and during the dream exercise, the community also had some ideas that was not aligned with ours. Like some ideas were constructing maybe a religious temple or something. So in that case, we only directed the actions that we have a shared vision for. And in the design phase, it is mostly subdividing the activities and then asking why are we doing this activity? Why do we want to do this activity? Who will do it? What are the resources available and such? And then there's finally the delivery. Next slide, please. This is a video, but I think I'll skip this video part and move to the next slide. So finally, the final intervention that I want to talk about is the regenerative tourism part. So the wetlands that I was talking about, the cultural, historic, mythological stories. So these kind of stories are a lot of them are verbal. A lot of them are, they have not been documented. So for us to have a regenerative solution to conserve, protect, and restore these areas, we needed solution that binded these interrelated stories into a more coherent, holistic form. So my team, we have hiked 43 kilometers of this trail, which connects different wetlands in Kathmandu Valley and also outside. And this is a revival of a mythological story of a serpent god. So I am running out of time. So if you are interested to know more, there's a link in the bottom, the bit.ly link. You could look into it. So with that, I think my 10 minutes are over. If there are any questions, I'd like to take it. Thank you.
Well, thank you for speeding up. Yeah, so sorry, we are running out of time. There's so much inspirational stuff to share. I copied the link in your last slide. I'm not sure, or we can share it afterwards. I see it doesn't go. I think people must have many questions, but in order to continue and finish exactly in time, I would like to give first the closing remarks from the Global Peatlands Initiative, so the floor to Patrick Shiu. Please share your questions in the meeting chat so we can make sure that they get answered. Maybe we can follow up by email. Many thanks for everybody. I will also put a last poll in the chat, so feel free to respond. And then I will give the floor to Patrick.
Thank you, Nalini. So I don't have nice slides. You have to see my face. Yeah, you have to see my face, which I hope I represent the youth in my organization. But you can see some nice peatlands and wetlands on my back. And I'd hope that we would have a longer time to actually have a good conversation with these 50, 80, 70 participants. But we're going to share also our details so we can keep discussing things, because one of the main purposes of these events is to start sharing knowledge and opportunities, and that's what I also want to discuss right now. We want you to help you to connect to our international partnership. We have more than 60 expert organizations as the Global Peatlands Initiative, and our main goal is to find synergies and we want you to use the science that we have developed, and for this to work as a foundation for action. And well, I can also tell you a little bit more about the GPI, because we're an international partnership that is being led by the United Nations Environment Program. And basically, we want to bring together experts for the conservation, restoration, and sustainable management of peatlands worldwide. And that's basically our mission, to focus both on the climate change aspects of the ecosystem services provided by peatlands, but also the biodiversity and the livelihood perspective. And we acknowledge that the youth is a key sort of aspect to address the triple planetary crisis of climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution that have been identified by the United Nations. And many of our partners here today, including RE-PEAT, U, IFSA, WI, we have already been working with them in this important work to engage with the youth. But we need to keep going further and find new collaboration opportunities with other students that might be here, for example, joining. And we want to be focused on the inclusivity of diverse groups of stakeholders, not only including youth, but also indigenous peoples, local communities, and vulnerable groups, and to get them involved in wetland and peatland solutions for decision making. And currently, we're developing this long-term strategy to expand our impact and increase the support of peatland conservation beyond our current sort of partner countries. And right now, for us, it's a crucial moment to amplify the voice of the youth. And I don't only mean strengthening, for example, the role of youth organizations that are already working with us, but also to ensure that there's youth engagement embedded across all other GPI partners, and even beyond that, across the wider global peatland and wetland community. So our next sort of 10-year strategy is going to integrate this component of youth to shape our common future. And we're using as a reference the Ramsar Convention's resolution on strengthening Ramsar connections through youth. And with this resolution, we want to be inclusive, having these participatory approaches, ensuring that the youth are recognized as key stakeholders, and increasing overall the participation of underrepresented groups. And of course, I mean, empowering young people as future leaders, having a role in these organizations that have an impact globally in regards of wetland and peatland conservation. So we as the GPI, we generate science and we translate it into policy to guide action. And some of our key flagship products include the Global Peatlands. We can put some of these links in the chat. The Global Peatlands Assessment, the Global Peatland Hotspot Atlas, and all of these tools provide essential information about where peatlands are, what peatlands are, how we can protect them. We also identify the different types of threats they face, and most importantly, the opportunities they hold, which are a lot. So we're also raising awareness with, we already shared the link of our virtual peatland pavilion. So we are showcasing the latest peatland research and projects from our partners. And we're starting a peatland pavilion world tour soon. And we're going to bring this tool to key international events across the entire world. So we will keep you updated, because you're going to be able to contribute with content to add to the pavilion. But also we encourage you to explore the diverse content it holds. It has a lot of videos, animations, reports, but also it has even peatland artwork. So it's a very dynamic space, and we want to share this knowledge with you in order to eventually inspire action. But the thing is that the GPI has a very diverse range of resources tailored to different types of stakeholders. And we have very technical reports for the scientific community, but also we have very friendly and accessible reports and maps designed for policymakers and the general public. So we encourage you to explore all of this material. And another opportunity that I want to share is that we have the research working group from the Peatlands community. And basically, we connect global researchers from all around the world and try to identify international funding opportunities. And we focus specifically on early career researchers to give young scientists a space to contribute and grow. So we're going to have actually a meeting of the working group this year. So we encourage you to visit our website. We can include also the link of the ads over there of the website. And also we are starting a new training program for evidence synthesis and policy engagement for Peatlands. So we can also share more information for you to apply. But my point is that we have many ways to collaborate, and we invite you to reach out to us in case there's, well, I guess there's a lot of questions, so please reach out. We can also leave our details in the chat. And
Thank you so much, Patrick.
We just need to make sure that wetlands and peatlands are valued for the generations to come. So yeah, let's just raise awareness and turn this into action and foster collaboration. And yeah, happy World Wetlands Day. Thank you very much. And yeah, thank you. Back to you, Nalini. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patrick. And I think on those words, I also saw that on the poll, people reacted on with collaboration, hopeful, action. So I think we had a good session. It was squeezed with presentations. We will share the recording, the links, also what Patrick just mentioned, all these information and links with you. Happy World Wetlands Day, and take care. Then have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Creator.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.